What was your role in issuing the waivers giving Iran access to that pot of money?
Thank you very much, Senator. With regard to the $6 billion in question,
the 10 billion, not the
sorry.
not the $6 billion in ransom. That's another problematic decision.
Apology.
There is a consistent pattern in this administration of giving money to theocratic lunatics who want to murder us. $100 billion to the Ayatollah Khamenei is the single most catastrophic foreign policy decision of this administration.
That I have been myself on the receiving end of Iranian death threat information, including during my time in Ashgabat when President Niyazov used to remind me that the Iranians had a missile pointed at my bedroom.
Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. It's Freedom Forge, your unapologetic, America First patriot, bringing you the truth the mainstream media won't touch. Today, we're diving into a Senate hearing that should have every single patriotic American absolutely furious. Senator Ted Cruz grilled Biden administration officials about billions of dollars. Yes, billions that this administration is letting Iran get their hands on. And the answers he got? Dodges, deflections, and bureaucratic doublespeak that should scare the daylights out of anyone who cares about this country's security. So, let's break it down, call out the nonsense, and talk about what's really going on here.
Ms. Gavito, you served for 2 years as Deputy Assistant Secretary for Iran, Iraq, and Public Diplomacy. Then you became the Acting Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Near Eastern Affairs. What was your role in issuing the waivers giving Iran access to that pot of money?
Thank you very much, Senator. With regard to the $6 billion in question,
the 10 billion, not the
sorry.
not the $6 billion in ransom. That's another problematic decision.
Apologies. With regard to the electricity waivers, I, as Deputy Assistant Secretary, did not have a direct role in that particular decision. That being said, certainly was part of those discussions. As Ambassador Jacobson has noted, the intent behind those waivers was to incentivize the Iraqi government.
I'm not asking about the intent. Did you support those waivers?
I was not in a decision-making capacity.
Did you agree with the decision?
I would have to review, Senator. Yes, I believe that incentivizing Iraq to divest itself of Iranian oil is positive.
Okay, Ambassador Jacobson, these waivers will have to be renewed this summer or they expire. If confirmed, would you support reissuing those waivers?
So I'd note that those waivers have spanned at least 2 administrations and been renewed 21 times since 2018, if I'm not mistaken. I take heart from the commitment of the government of Iraq to achieve energy independence by 2030.
That's not an answer to the question. Would you support reissuing those waivers?
Well, I don't think it would be up to me, and I would be more than interested in serving as part of the conversation.
There is a consistent pattern in this administration of giving money to theocratic lunatics who want to murder us. $100 billion to the Ayatollah Khamenei is the single most catastrophic foreign policy decision of this administration. And today, this administration continues to refuse to enforce the oil sanctions, enriching the Ayatollah, funding Hamas, funding Hezbollah, funding those who are murdering Israelis and trying to murder Americans. How does it make sense to give billions and billions of dollars to theocratic lunatics who want to kill us?
Thank you for that question, Senator. I personally am very clear-eyed about the Iranian threat. I think I shared with you, and I'll share with others, that I have been myself on the receiving end of Iranian death threat information, including during my time in Ashgabat when President Niyazov used to remind me that the Iranians had a missile pointed at my bedroom. With regards to the funds that are kept in restricted accounts that are overseen by the Treasury Department, that are the subject of an extensive system of safeguards, these funds will never reach the government of Iran. These funds have to stay overseas, and they have to be used for humanitarian purposes. You could ask Doesn't that mean that it frees up money for their massive terrorism campaigns, which of course are heinous? And I would argue that Iran, unfortunately, is always going to focus on destabilizing activity over supporting the humanitarian needs of its own people. With regards to the sanctions, the administration hasn't lifted any sanctions, and as far as I know, it's implemented another 700 sanctions.
But it refuses to enforce it. My time's expired, but the results are indisputable. And Iran has gone from selling 300,000 barrels a day of oil to selling 2 million barrels of oil a day. That is funding this war of terror against us.
All right, did you see that? Senator Cruz asks Ms. Gavito, a deputy assistant secretary, point blank whether she supported these waivers that let Iran access billions. And what does she do? She dances around the question. I wasn't in a decision-making capacity, she says. I was part of the discussions. Folks, let's call this what it is: bureaucratic evasion. You're either for these waivers or you're against them. If you're in the room, you know what's happening and you know what you think. But she won't say it. And then Ambassador Jacobson gets the same treatment. Cruz asks her if she'll support renewing these so-called waivers when they come up again. What does she say? She gives us a history lesson about how many times these waivers have been renewed across 2 administrations, 21 times since 2018. But she won't say yes or a no. American people deserve answers, not history lectures. Let me be crystal clear. These waivers are allowing Iran, the world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism, to access billions of dollars. And what does Iran do with that money? Does it feed its people? Build schools? No. It funds Hamas, Hezbollah, and all the other bloodthirsty terrorist groups that want nothing more than to wipe Israel and America off the map. Senator Cruz nails it. This is a catastrophic foreign policy blunder. He says it's the worst decision this administration has made, and I couldn't agree more. The numbers don't lie. Iran was selling maybe 200,000 or 300,000 barrels of oil a day. Now, under Biden, they're selling 2 million barrels a day. That's a windfall for the Ayatollah and his terrorist cronies. But don't worry, says Ambassador Jacobson. The money is restricted. It's in overseas accounts. The Treasury Department is watching it. Yeah, right? That's like handing a loaded gun to a criminal and saying, but don't worry, we told him not to shoot anyone. Iran doesn't care about restrictions. Money is fungible. Every dollar we let them use for humanitarian needs is a dollar they don't have to spend on food and medicine. So they can pour even more into rockets, drones, and terrorist proxies. And let's not forget, Jacobson herself admits she's been on the receiving end of Iranian threats. She says Iran had a missile aimed at her bedroom when she was serving overseas. And yet, she sits there defending policies that hand the Iranian regime billions? Folks, this is insanity. Let's call this what it is: appeasement. This administration is more interested in bending over backwards to please the Ayatollahs than in protecting the American people or our allies. They talk a big game about sanctions, but Cruz is right. If you don't enforce the sanctions, they're meaningless. It's all smoke and mirrors while Iran gets richer and more dangerous. Here's the bottom line, folks. Every time we let Iran access these billions, we put American lives at risk. We fund the very enemies who chant death to America in the streets of Tehran. We embolden terrorists who kill Israelis, Americans, and anyone else who stands in their way. If you love this country, if you care about the safety of your kids, your community, and our troops overseas, you should be outraged. So what can we do? First, don't let them gaslight you with talk of restricted humanitarian funds. Demand accountability. Call your representatives. Tell them no more waivers, no more appeasement, and no more billions for Iran. Second, share this video. Get the word out. The mainstream media won't cover this. They want you to believe everything's fine. It's not. We're funding our enemies, and it's got to stop. This is Freedom Forge, standing for America, standing for the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it might be for the political elites in Washington. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and God bless the United States of America.